Just hit it, Jen.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Ready to go?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is Rich Pendergast for the Town of Old Lyme's regularly scheduled WPCA meeting starting at 7:31 on 10/19. We have a quorum. We have myself, Rich Pendergast. We have Frank Chan, Jim Burgess, Steve Tsunami, Rob McCarthy, and Dmitry Tolchinsky. Excused are Randy Nixon and Joe Carpentino. So that leaves a couple of other members who may be joining us or trying to join us. Sometimes this happens. Andrea Lombard, notably, might join us. We'll try and identify her if she does join. Tonight's agenda is approval of minutes, budget updates. We have an executive session after the budget update, and that's to talk about amending the cost sharing agreement with the Old Lyme Private Beach Associations. And honestly, I don't know if that's going to be a quick meeting or a long meeting, and it depends on the strategy that we discuss in that executive session. After the executive session, we'll return to a regular meeting and we'll talk about the business updates of the sewer projects, cost sharing agreements, the design review, sewer ordinance, additional WPCA funding. Then we'll go through correspondence, new business, public comment, and adjournment. This agenda is posted on the Town of Lyme's website. So for the first part, I'd like a motion to approve the minutes from September 14th. So it looks like Frank made a motion. Can I have a second? If you could say something or raise your hand. So Steve Tsunami seconded it. Open discussion. Does anyone have any comments, edits, adjustments about the meeting minutes from September 14th? I'm not hearing any. If you're talking and we're not responding, then you're muted. Okay, so I'm not hearing any complaints. I'm going to go for a motion, a vote to approve the minutes. Although I'm going to survey each of you because we have to do that with the virtual like this. So for the approval of minutes, Frank Chan, how do you vote? Yes or no? Is that a yes? Yes. Jim Burge, do you vote yes? Please raise your hand.
I don't know if I can. I was not here last meeting. So
You're allowed to vote, but if you feel compromised or you feel like you can't vote, you can abstain.
No, I read them. I say yes.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Rob, how do you vote? Yes. Raise your hand. Yes. Steve Tsunami, how do you vote? Yes. Raise your hand or no? Okay. You're indicating you raise your hand. So that's a yes. Dimitri, how do you vote? Yes. Okay. Any of those opposed? No opposed because there's unanimous. Motion passed. Moving on to the next item. Let's see. Budget update. So unfortunately, Joe Carpentino had a last minute meeting obligation. His day job turned into a night job, and he can't attend. So I'm going to give an update. Nothing has been spent since the last meeting. So our total of spent year to date is $1,099, and remaining balance is $87,849. Percent of our budget left is 98.76. We have received some invoices that we're processing, and we will approve because they're part of some previous approved budget amounts. One is our town's legal for $726 regarding the IMA with New London, as well as $82.50, also from the same issue. We're planning on submitting that to using the carryover budget from last time, which was because this process took a lot longer than we thought it would. We also received from New London, New London's legal to complete the agreement, a bill for $1,980. We had budgeted $3,000, so I'm glad that that came in under budget. We're still looking at that. We just got it, so we'll review that. Before I go to the next item on the budget, does anyone have any questions about these invoices? I'm not seeing any. So the next one is if you remember back, we've had a couple times talking about our bonding council, which is a different legal group. And that we had an invoice from them for $20,000, approximately $20,000 that dates back from work to 2014. I have made progress on that. And the progress is this. I confirmed with the previous first selectman that she did in fact have discussions with the bonding council. I talked with the previous legal counsel that we had, and he did in fact talk with the bonding council. I know some of the items that I talked with the bonding council were there. I've asked the bonding council to itemize and section this off per year, this bill. They agreed, no problem. They also said we don't have to pay it right away. I explained how, receiving this bill was kind of a shocker, especially going back so many years, and why did you send it earlier? And I don't think I got a real answer, at least one I could understand, because I still don't understand how anyone could do that, but they are trying to support us, is the bottom line. So they're itemizing it. We're going to get the itemized amount. I would recommend we start paying some of it off without jeopardizing our planned legal expenses. For example, how I mentioned the New London, when we did the budget for the New London legal, that came in less, so we can use some of that money to pay off this. The bonding council also said paying this bill won't prevent them from providing more work for us or working more with us. Because as you know, when we go for the clean water funds, we need their help to do that. They specialize in that kind of work. So that's my update. I think it's fairly good news. Unfortunately, there was no way that I got the news to say that we don't owe that money. We do. It's just, unfortunately, for some reason, they haven't billed us since 2014. But the majority of the bill came from 2019. So, anyways, any questions about that? Steve, I see your hand raised. I think you got to unmute yourself.
If they help us with the Clean Water Fund, can their bill be paid out of the Clean Water Fund proceeds?
I think so, but we have to, historically, what they're saying is we don't have to pay them right away. So yes, we could do that. However, we'd have to submit the bill and have the Clean Water Funds people actually tell us, approve it. And all along the process, legal in the Clean Water Funds is applicable for writing the bond part and for acquiring land or easements. It's not for negotiating intermunicipal agreements. Okay, so
Right, but I mean, they were our bonding
yes,
people.
that's why, yeah. But what I understand the process is for legal, everyone from the Clean Water Funds tells me you submit the bill and you make your case and you see what they'll give you. And I know in the past we have done Clean Water Funds and we submitted the bill and the Clean Water Fund said, no, that's too expensive, or we don't agree with that, or something like that. And that was part of other projects. So, any other questions? I'm not hearing any other questions. And so at this point, we're going to leave this regular meeting and go into an executive session. What that means is the WPCA members will sign off of this and we'll sign into the other executive session. We'll have a discussion there. We'll talk about the strategy, the negotiation. We will not make any motions. We'll then exit that session and we'll come back into the this meeting In the meantime, everyone at home listening to this, Jennifer will still be online, and we will resume the regular meeting. So at this point, WPCA members, please exit this meeting and go to the executive session. Thank you. Okay, this is Rich Prendergast, the chairman of the WPCA. We left executive session. We're all coming back now. Just want to make sure that the WPCA members are here. I see Frank, I see Jim, I see Rob, I see Steve. Dimitri, are you there? Might give him a minute to. Yeah, we'll give him a minute. We're still recording, right, Jennifer? Yep, okay. So bear with us for a minute. We'll give Dimitri a chance. Somebody came in. Okay, I see Dimitri. Dimitri, are you here?
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right, so we're going to continue with our regular scheduled meeting. We just left the executive session where we discussed amending the cost sharing agreement. No motions were taken because you can't take motions in executive meeting. I don't plan on any motions now. We did talk about some strategy, and essentially what we're going to do with that is we're going to review the documents in more detail, and I'm going to call a special meeting with an executive session just to go over the edits of that. There are some other things that we have to consider that are time sensitive. I don't know when that special meeting will be. I'm thinking maybe 2 weeks. That'll give us time to resolve some of the short-term issues. If you want to, if it'll be posted on the town's calendar. And so if you get notices for WPCA agendas, you'll get a notice for that. It'll probably be 7:30 p.m., the usual time, which seems to work well for these type of meetings.
Hey, Rich, just
Yes.
a note. I glanced at the calendar when you were transitioning there. Our next because this meeting's a week later than normal, our next meeting's only 3 weeks from today, I believe.
Yeah, you're right. We pushed this meeting back a week because of the conflicts, Columbus Day. So maybe it makes sense to have the next meeting have that executive session built into that meeting.
Just keep it in mind.
Yeah. So you know what? I'm going to probably have to think about that because you know we have other business that we have to take care of, and I don't want to have this meeting go too late into the evening unless we have to, maybe. So I'll think about that, but that's a good point, Rob. Thank you. So I'm going to move on to item 5, the business, Soundview Sewer Project Miscellaneous B, the status of the cost sharing agreements. The New London, as I mentioned last time, the IMA was signed. And I mentioned earlier tonight that we got the legal bill, and we also got a copy of the signed agreement. So that is a big accomplishment. It took a long time, and the negotiations were tense. That was good to get. The East Lyme IMA, Frank, do you want to talk about it? I mean, I could make some comments. But you were managing that. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes, the town of East Lyme decided that they wish to have a separate agreement with us, which is different from what they agreed to initially. So we're working through our first selectman to figure out what is the best way to approach this, because having a separate agreement actually introduces complications into the existing IMA. So I think with the East Lyme's going to get a new administration, so I think we can probably wait till that is in place and then re-engage.
Yeah. So voting November 2nd, The selectman in East Lyme is stepping down. The discussions with the utilities director says, yeah, we're good with this. Their legal is talking to our legal. It's just that, it seems like it's a little strange. They want to change the thing that we had verbal agreement with and discussed in the past, but we'll work through it. Getting that IMA from East Lyme will be the final piece. They did send us a kind of a memo of understanding. So the only thing I would add is that we're talking to the deep and clean water fundings to see if, what that memo of understanding kind of means and, how does it affect us in our timescale. I don't know if this is the place to put it or not, but well, before I go into the next item on this item, does any of the WPCA members have questions or comments? Okay, not hearing any. So I think this is probably the best place for this comment of mine. The bids for the shared resources, the sewer project, that the shared resources are the private beach associations have arranged for a bid for a pump station, what's called a trunk line, which collects a lot of the effluents along the different beaches, brings it to the pump station, and a force main that leaves the pump station to the neighboring town's pump system and goes through a bioxide plant, which is a treatment plant. So they broke the bid into those things. They've opened the bids, which means they've looked at the price that people have suggested. They have not qualified the bids, which means someone says how much money they're willing to do this for, and then they have to go through to make sure that it meets the requirements. They're doing that now. The bid amounts came in, I would say, in some of the systems lower than expected and some of them higher than expected. The overall amount is still high. And I guess there's different possibilities of why they're high. The first time they bid this, it was $18 million and it was like one price for everything. And then the second time that they broke it up into pieces, it's in the neighborhood of 14 million to 21 million. Now that's for 3 beaches and the town to take a share in that. So the town's share would be 29.7%. So that would be 4 million to 6 billion for the shared resources. There's other items that go into that. So it's premature to say this is what the bids are. It's also premature to say what the costs are. I know the beach associations have discussions about evaluating the bids and looking at the qualifications. And I think that's part of what we'll get in the next maybe week or so, maybe longer, when they qualify the different bids. Hopefully the low bidders become qualified, that they did everything that is needed. And maybe there's an opportunity to get some clarification that might, consider adjusting or redoing one of the bids to make it less expensive. I don't know. It's too early to tell, but it's a status update, and that's what I wanted to say. Does anyone, the WPCA members, have a question about that comment? Okay, switching on to the next item 5A II, which is the design review considerations update from the design review task force. Steve, I'll hand the microphone over to you if you have anything to say. We, had topics in the past about well abandonment discussions. So, but I don't know, Steve, do you have any comment that you want to say?
Well,
Update.
we haven't had another meeting because the last time I had contacted Wood and Curran about whether they need any information or whatever. it appears as though they're just working on design. They don't have any questions right now. But I'd like to ask Frank for an update on the well abandonment letters to see how the response was on ours. I know that we sent out a second and final well abandonment letter to the affected parties, and I just would like to get Frank to update us if he could.
Okay. Well, actually, Jennifer has the updates on responses. My only update is that they went out.
They went out. They went out by certified mail. We sent 9 letters out. I checked the status as of tonight. 6 of them we have confirmed delivery. 1 status unknown. 1 reminder to schedule redelivery, which I have no idea what that means. I have to look into that. And 1 that I'm unsure of. And out of those 9, so far we've received 1 response in writing. But it's early still. I think we could receive more.
Okay. All right. Any questions about that update? I didn't see any hands and I don't hear anything. So moving on to the sewer ordinance gap update and planning. Frank, you get another chance to the microphone.
Yeah, so I responded last time that a lawyer had provided comments back to us on the ordinance. I have addressed all the comments, but I would like someone else to look at it and just as needed check. I think it looks pretty good, but last time Randy and I worked on it, so he probably has the shortest, learning curve to as a reviewer.
So I'm going to ask Randy to take another look at this. Unless you want to ask him. Frank.
I'll ask him.
Oh, you already asked him. Okay.
No,
Randy,
I will ask him because I'll say the chairman said you should review it.
okay. That's what happens, Randy, when you work instead of coming to this meeting. So Randy can't make this meeting tonight, but I know Randy's had discussions in the past, and this is kind of something that he deals with on a regular basis. So it's actually, he's very efficient with it. And
Yeah,
so
we work on it together for the entire document, so he's familiar with it.
okay. Next item 5B, the additional WPCA funding. This is federal funding we're talking about. There has been early discussions and the funding didn't go so well. There's funding for wastewater, and there's funding specifically in the American Rescue Plan for sewer and wastewater. There's another meeting with representatives of state representatives, Joe Courtney's office and Senator Murphy's office. So hopefully that they'll come up with new sources of funding. And the idea is to see if we can get some fundings for this project. I don't have any good news right now. So the next meeting I'll be apprised of or try to go to it, or someone else in the WPCA will go to it. We're working collectively with the beach associations to request the funding. We've already requested the funding, to the senators' offices and the representatives' offices, but they have a funding coordinator, and that person is working on our behalf. So hopeful that we'll get some additional funding, because that lowers the cost of the entire project and lowers the cost for the residents of Old Lyme. Any questions about that before I move on? Not hearing any. So the next item is item 6, correspondence. I sent a correspondence to the WPCA members. The first correspondence, well, the oldest correspondence was from resident Mary Daly, who reminded us about a motion in 2019. It relates to sending letters to residents' winter house, and It also talks about the ordinance and legal requirement, minimum legal requirements, and it suggests that we can afford sending 150 postcards to Soundview residents. I responded that we're going to do the legal requirements. What did I say? We have been sending letters to winter dresses, and it mentions about our budgets. Something's going on with my. Okay, maybe somebody needs to mute. I don't know. There, it seems to fix itself. And it mentions about our budget. We can afford to send it. And there is an issue where I corrected, at least in the idea that we can't, I don't know, it's legally questionable to send some residents certified letters for changing the ordinance that affects, it's a town-wide ordinance, and not all the residents. So our requirement is to post it in the newspaper, and that's what we're going to do. Any questions about that correspondence? Okay. The other correspondence was me requesting the state of Connecticut to look at the East Lyme memo of understanding and explain the situation and request a ruling that they'll give us the clean water funds based on this memo of understanding or this letter. And Carlos from the state DEP did respond with a, I would say maybe, carefully worded letter that was somewhat unclear as far as answering, and then promising to pass the request on to his superiors. Any questions about that? Okay. Moving out of new correspondence to new business. Any new business from WPCA members? I'm not seeing any hands. I'm not hearing anything. So at this point, we'll get on to public comment. If you'd like to make a public comment, it's a little hard to do this sometimes. So what we'd like to do is make it based on the sewer project or this WPCA issues. If you could state your name, we'll recognize your name, let you speak. And the way this works, if you haven't done it before, is you make your public comment. You may ask a question. You may make a comment. We're not going to respond to the questions during the public comment session. We're going to then hear all these things, write them down, consider them, and we may make comments after the public comment session. So at this point, would someone from the public like to make a public comment? And you'd have to unmute yourself if you know. Jennifer, the lines are unmuted.
This is Mary Daly. Can you hear me?
Hi, Mary Daly, recognized.
Hi, good evening. I just have a question. Which I know you're not answering questions, but it seems like you're moving forward with the IMAs, the letters for well abandonment, sewer ordinances, design reviews, etc., and really actually still questioning if you're going to get additional funding, if the bids are going to come into the level that was passed by the referendum. But what happens if you don't get additional funding and the bids stay high? Where are you going to get that extra money from? Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome.
Any other public comment?
Hi, this is Bill Reynolds from Gorton Ave.
Hi, Bill, you're recognized.
You had said that some of the other private beaches that are involved in this joint infrastructure came in high. What happens if they exceed their bonding and can't go ahead with the project? Does that make the Soundview project kind of DOA for the time being? Where does it go if basically if one of Miami, Old Lyme Shores, Old Colony, if they can't do it and pull out, where does that leave Soundview?
Okay. Anything else, Bill?
Nope, thank you.
Thanks. Any other comments, public comments? I'm not hearing any. If you're trying to talk, you might be on mute. Okay. I'm going to close the public comment. If you tried to talk and didn't work, you can always send an email. You go to the town website and the WPCA page. There's a WPCA clerk, Jennifer, and then there's WPCA chair. You send it to her, I get it. You send it to me, I get it. I don't check my email every day, but I do try and check it frequently. So anyways, from public comment is closed. I will say this, these are the big questions, additional funding. We would love to get additional funding. And when funding comes out there, it lowers the cost. So I think it's our responsibility to see if we can get the most we can. For instance, if we put like solar panels on, we can get solar panel funding. We get different agency funding, and sometimes one agency doesn't like to do with the other agency. You have to evaluate how much work it is to get the money and to how much money it is. If you spend 50 grand to do some kind of study to get 50 grand, it's not worth it. But if we can get more funding, great. And what's changed is the American Rescue Plan has put out that it's going to give the town money. And we didn't have that idea when we first started this in 2013. So if we can get more funding, great. The relationship as far as over our referendum, it's unclear if it's over our referendum so far. But if it's over our referendum, we can't, I don't think we can go forward the way it is. We'd have to seek additional referendum or lower the costs. If the private beach associations can't do their project, we go it alone. We rebid what they've done, and originally our project is separate from their project. The IMAs with the neighboring towns don't really change because we're only paying for our volume. The thing is that we just had a whole bunch of decision makers to be part of that agreement. As far as the pipes that we're using, we're paying for just our pipes. The thing about it is the shared resources of the pump station and the force main, we are sharing that design costs. That would be more expensive. Our project was budgeted so we could do this, and our project had a contingency fee in there so we could do these things because we didn't know. I will say this, the beach associations in the town, they can't just say, it's too expensive, we're not going to do it. Because we don't have a way to get away from the administration order that the state has put us on. And I know some people in the private beach associations hear or take a look at it and say, oh, it's too expensive, we're just not going to do it. You can't say that. I'd like to say that, but can't do it. Because you still have that obligation. The worst extreme case, which was threatened to other towns, but not to our town, was that the state ends up fining us until we come up with the money. I don't think they'll do that, but they have done that to Clinton in the past. And what's possible is that we, I work in industry like this where pressure vessels and metal and there's raw materials, and the pricing of steel right now is crazy, 40% more. The pricing of coal is 300%. And it's also, people can't get guarantees for materials. So it's possible, and I'm just supposing here, that if we can't get the project to work now, they might just delay the project for a year. And the idea is that the stability is returns and the competitive nature returns and the prices go down. I don't know. So, we're going to go and do as best we can. The agreements that we have in place, they don't trigger us spending money other than the legal expense of doing the agreements until we start using it. So, there is a way to back out if we need to. So we're at the point now we're evaluating things, and the bids now are not qualified. So we have to qualify them, and then we'll have to come up with a strategy. So the next couple of months probably be interesting as far as where the direction goes. I invite any other WPCA members that if they want to comment on the comments before we end up going to the next item. Okay. I'm going to call for a motion for adjournment. I have a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
So James made a motion, second it.
I second it, Dimitri.
Dimitri seconded it. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 I'm going to assume, I'm not doing a roll call. I'm going to assume that it's unanimous. Anyone disagree? Okay. So this meeting's adjourned. Thank you all for attending. Have a great night. Stay safe, and talk to you some other time. Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Thanks, Jennifer.